This Week in Radio Tech, episode 138, is brought to you by the Omnia One audio processor, with over 8,000 in studio and on air around the globe. And by Win Connections. Gain insights into the Microsoft Technology Roadmap, October 29th through November 1st in Las Vegas. Visit winconnections.com and use code TECH100 when you register.
And now, our feature presentation.
Twert.
Audio engineers are headed to the AES convention next month in San Francisco. It's like getting a postgraduate education in audio.
All right, calm down. He says that to everyone.
This calls for immediate discussion.
What's up, Dad?
All your days are belong to us.
From his palatial office of important business, or in a choice hotel in a distant land, this is Kirk Harnack.
Chris Tarr and Chris Tobin join me to chat with David Bialik about the broadcast and streaming sessions at AES.
You're dialed in to This Week in Radio Tech.
It's time for This Week in Radio Tech. Hi there, I'm Kirk Harnack. Yep, that's me. Been around for 138 episodes. Glad you're here, too. Maybe you've been around for 138 episodes. You know, they're all available. You can check them out on our website at thisweekinradiotech.com. They're all linked or stored there, I think, or at least some summaries are. I think there's a few missing, but we got most of them. Hey, and we don't do the show all me. No, luckily, very luckily, we have some real experts on the show. I'm very glad to welcome back, after being gone for a couple weeks, our guest, the best-dressed engineer in radio from Manhattan, New York City. It's Chris Tobin. Hey, Chris.
Hello, Kirk. How are you?
I'm great. What's up with you?
Hey, no, not too much. Just traveling and having a good time. As president of Musicam USA, for disclosure, we're a manufacturer of codecs and IP and video and audio, so this way everybody knows where I'm coming from. No, it's been a great week. The weather's been great. However, as I mentioned earlier in an email, the irritating moments this week have been the United Nations General Assembly, which I'm living in the neighborhood of the UN, so it's been an interesting time watching motorcades with, how would you say it, special type of weapons hanging out the back of a Suburban with the window propped open and a guy with a very funny-looking long metal tube as you're waiting at the corner to cross, and they're just racing by with lights flashing. Yes,
oh, that's got to be surreal.
Oh, I have to say that earlier in the week, Monday to be exact, I was invited to a red carpet to cover. I do photography, and my wife was doing the interviews with the celebrities. So we're walking to the theater, the Ziegfeld. It's a very popular theater, and we're walking past a hotel. It is white tent, metal detectors, security beyond belief. They look like they shouldn't, you just don't want to mess with them. And I'm saying to myself, great, whoever's here must be a true head of state, one pain in the butt. We step up to the intersection to cross, where it's told by Secret Service you'll have to wait, people are leaving a vehicle. Armored vehicle pulls up, the Cadillac type thing. They get out, they rush them through the tent so you can't see who it is. We go and do the red carpet. We do the interviews. We do all our stuff. We head home, have a drink, relax, turn on the news, local news. What do we find out? The president of Iran is staying in the hotel three blocks down from the house. That's who we watch get out of a vehicle.
Ahmad,
I could
I'm
have
a dinner
ended my
jacket.
life right then and there with the protesters. Yeah. Yes, I'm a dinner jacket.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Yes. The protesters were crazy. Everything was just wild. So that's what it's been all week. It's been fun.
Jeez. And I understand things are exactly like that up in Milwaukee, too. Isn't that right, Chris Tarr?
Oh yeah, we have famous people coming and going all the time. In fact, the mayor of the village president came by the other day, and it's not really that exciting. No, sorry.
You've posted some pictures, some Facebook pictures from some live music events that were going on that your new the station that you're newly engineering for is covering, right?
Yeah, well, they do those all the time. So that's it was funny. And unfortunately, I can't for the life of me remember the guy's name. He was fantastic, but we did. Out in a courtyard today, did a small little performance, and that's part of a lot of what we do. And so, it was kind of fun as I'm sitting outside in the sun watching live music, going, well, I'm getting paid for this. This isn't too bad. Setting up the equipment for the broadcast. So that was a lot of fun.
The tough thing about being an engineer and doing these live remotes is when they break out the beer and stuff like that, because you have too much of that stuff and it gets real hard to pack the gear back up at the end of the day.
It does make it a challenge. That's for sure.
Do you have any roadies that help you out, or are you doing this yourself?
Really, I actually, to be honest, don't do a lot of the work. It turns out, it works really well. We have a real good relationship with local theater here in Milwaukee, Pabst Theater. They do a lot of performances at a lot of different venues, and so I actually use their staff to do the recording. I'm just there to make sure everything works, and if there's something that isn't working, I'm there to fix it. But I don't do any of the mixing or the, that kind of thing. I'll help them lug some of the stuff around though.
Well, cool. Well, hey, what's that? Oh, what was the video?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were putting me live to that. There's something I did this past weekend. I'll talk about it later.
Well, guess we didn't see it. We did see a quick video, though, of our guest. That's David Bialik. So let's go ahead and throw the camera over to David. Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, Kirk. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris.
David, you've been on the show before. You hold a position over at CBS, but that's not why you're here. You're here to tell us about the AES convention. That's the Audio Engineering Society. And you've put together for yet another year a track of broadcast and streaming sessions where you get the top experts on the planet together to talk about a number of different subjects. And those subjects are going to be, or some of those subjects will be our subjects for this show on this episode of This Week in Radio Tech. So, David, welcome in.
Thank you very much. Yeah, AES is sort of like a guilty pleasure of mine. Many years ago, I asked them, can I put together a few broadcast sessions? And it's grown, and we've added streaming. And this year, we have, I guess, 16 sessions that I've put together, and there's quite a few others. Everybody can go to aesbroadcast.com to see all the broadcast sessions, but we can definitely talk about the sessions we put together today.
Well, hey, I want to mention part of, I guess, the sub-headline here on the press release that came out today. I'm sorry, this is actually came out earlier, but is the 133rd AES convention signals expanded broadcast streaming media sessions, diverse media playback, new techniques, and hot technology. What? Okay, diverse media playback. Now I get it. I guess that means playback on a diverse number of devices that consumers want to use.
And that brings up the session that I'm chairing on Saturday night, October 27th. It's what happens to your production when played on various media. And I have a panel on that is out of this world. I got Karl-Heinz Brandenburg, Frank Foti, Greg Oganowski, Bob Orban, and George Massenberg all together to talk about what happens when you make a recording and you want to play it back on different in a different media. Is it going to sound good if it's cut for MP3, if it's also cut for vinyl? Is it cut for radio? Is it cut for streaming? As all of us know, when it never sounds the same in two places. And
now, I got to ask you, people in radio, especially, both AM and FM radio for years in the production rooms, a lot of folks have had two sets of speakers, right? There's
Correct.
there's a set of speakers
and stereo.
that, yeah, well, mono stereo, but they have a set of the higher quality speakers, maybe some big Tannoy speakers or some clips or something like that. And then, yeah, right in front of you, you got these little one-speaker Oratones to kind of simulate somebody listening on a smaller radio, and you would listen to both of those and make sure something didn't disappear from the mix on the little speakers. So in radio, we've kind of been thinking about that for years. Not every station does that. Probably just program directors or production directors who are thinking comprehensively will do that. I guess especially the guys who do the imaging, the stuff that's going to play over and over and over again that is under the station's control, as opposed to a commercial that comes in from an agency. Well, even if you did pop it up on the little speakers and it didn't sound great, what are you going to do about it? It's an agency spot. But so the radio, we've been doing this for some years, but that's just to take care of the people that have little speakers. Now we're talking about such a diverse array of playback devices, and as you just said, from something the size of an iPod to an iPad that has a little tiny speaker in it, not very big, to even worse playback devices, I'm sure, and then on up to folks who have a home theater system. So.
I actually got the idea for this session from your show because you were talking to Greg Oganowski a while back, and he mentioned that Bob and Frank had done a paper on this, and that he had wanted to add to this. And I'm saying, gee, that's such a great idea. And then I decided to get Karl-Heinz Brandenburg involved in it, and also George Massenburg, and it just grew. And I'm expecting that session to be one of the most popular sessions of the convention, if my predictions are right.
Well, you've got some big names there. And, of course, my favorite, Frank Foti. Greg Oganowski, though, a good friend of the show. And Karl-Heinz Brandenburg, I've never met him, so maybe I'll get a chance to meet him. You said that particular session's on Saturday night, right?
Correct. And as you know, Kirk, at the show, if you hang around me, you always meet people.
Yes, yeah. So I'll be in your back pocket, if that's all right. Also, George Massenburg. Now, I don't know a lot about George, but he went to he's at McGill University, and,
right, and he also,
I need
ran GML Labs, and he's an award-winning record producer.
Yeah. Come think about it, I have read a couple of blog posts of his. Okay, so that session is what happens to your production when played back on various media.
That's session B9.
Okay, and that's Saturday night. I'm going to skip a few of these that are on the press release. You know what? Though? We got enough time actually to hit a few of these. I'm sorry. Let's chat. Even though this is a radio show, how many times have all of us watched TV and we've come to the end of a dramatic part of a TV show, and the guy's just about to kill somebody, and yet there's somebody else behind the door, and it's just it's an exciting, dramatic moment, and it goes to black, and a commercial come on, and it's some guy yelling at you about the new Kias are in, and that change in volume is startling to a lot of folks, and people get upset about it.
Correct. Dial norm has become a major issue.
Dial norm.
He
used to live down the street from me. Go dial norm.
Living with the COM Act, and it's basically what it comes down to. Congress couldn't do much last year, but they decided that hey, the TV needs to have the commercials lower, so that's what they agreed on all last year, and we have to live with it now, and so. There's a standard called the dial norm in the U.S., and forgive me, there is a standard in Europe, and we're going to cover both at the convention. I just can't remember the European name off the top of my head right now. And it is a crucial issue because Congress has decided they want to enforce it.
This thing is called the CALM Act, and that stands for the Commercial advertising
loudness monitoring mitigation. Or something, or loudness measurement, something like that.
I good thing they didn't call it, the commercial recording amplifier proposal, because that'd be bad. Couldn't say that. That'd be crap.
Well, I personally think they're calling it Congress's legacy.
Okay. Well, I noticed one of the panelists on this about the CALM Act, and I guess this is how to live with it, how to make it work, how to, first of all, follow the law, because it is law. And second of all, it's probably about how to put into play best practices so that the law doesn't accidentally have unintended consequences and screw up your programming, so that you actually, that you and your viewers can live with the result. Hopefully it's better than it used to be. One of the panelists, though, is Tim Carroll, and he's my associate. Tim's one of the owners of the Telos Alliance. He represents our linear acoustic division. Tim is a smart guy. Anytime Tim is talking, you're going to learn something.
Oh, Tim
really
is a genius. And one of these things that not many people realize is that this is one of the few regulations that's being put out to the cable as well as to the terrestrial broadcasters. So it's coming. It's going to affect everybody, and because before this, cable, you can throw anything on cable. Now they're actually regulating the audio levels on it.
Are cable head ends going to have to implement this as well?
Yes. What's going to happen is, let's say the network sets a dial norm number, which is their loudness number, and it's supposed to pass through on the metadata all the way through to the local affiliate, and then to the head end, and to the receiver. It's supposed to basically, you should never have to hit your volume knob again, but who knows? I mean, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. I'm sure Chris Tobin could give it a more complex way, because Chris loves to get into the technology a little more than I do.
Chris, what's your comment about the Calm Act and broadcasters having to comply with it? Have we lost Mr. Tobin?
Did I catch Chris off guard?
I think you did. We'll come back to him. How about facility design?
Facility design is going to be a great panel. John Storick, one of the most award-winning and great designers, is going to be putting together a panel, and they're going to be talking about all the different ways to design a facility, and everything from wiring to wall material to floors to ceiling to he's talked in the past about HVAC, all the different considerations you need for facility design. He gives you a real broad education in 90 minutes that's out of this world. And that's one of the things that the sessions do. The way I've always taken this is I try to create a chart of the different aspects of broadcasting, from facility design, program inception, program production, and recording and transmission and reception. And then I try to take an aspect of each one of those, and that's how I form the sessions each year.
Well, I tell you, personally, this idea of facility design, and he hits all the high points here in the press release. You certainly do. Your best options for your optimal options for doors, for glass, because you got to have some glass in a lot of these rooms. The heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, and how to keep that quiet. Oh my goodness! In so many places, it's not well designed and it's too noisy. The notion of variable acoustic panels. When you want to put those in, and maybe even how to adjust them. Hey, the furniture can make a difference in how a room sounds. And if you're trying to produce, a million-selling record, that can be important. Or if you're just trying to do the nightly news or do a show like this one, you might want to have an eye toward furniture.
Where you place the equipment even.
Yes, yeah. Good thing is they're going to be talking about being budget conscious as well as sky's the limit. So that'll be interesting, too, to find out about materials and techniques that don't cost a lot to implement.
And the thing about broadcast facilities now is, even though someone might be a radio facility, they have to prepare for video. Video is just as important as radio now, because streaming is in the mix, and streaming is an audio-visual medium.
Yep. A lot of radio stations have to pay attention to that. You're right, and so many TV stations. In the past, audio was just barely a consideration, but now you've got 5.1 sound. You might not be producing a newscast in 5.1, but you certainly have audio considerations that you got to worry about. Trying to keep the studio quiet and good sounding.
Well, you have to be able to mix for surround, stereo, mono, and for mobile television. There's all new considerations as well.
That's right. You got to be able to hear all this on a little bitty speaker or earbuds. All right, so that's a session that I'll be going to. What about the stream distribution, IP in the mobile environment? Are we talking about video here, or audio, or both?
We're talking about both, but mainly the audio consideration, since we are the Audio Engineering Society. We're trying to explain, like, hey, you need low bitrate audio, but it has to sound good, and how we're streaming now, and we have to make it sound good. It's not like in the old days where you're listening off maybe a 2-inch speaker. You have people that are spending lots of money on headphones. You have stream devices now. You have the mobile devices that are actually trying to sound good now. So it's a major consideration.
I was just sending a note over to Chris Tarr and Chris Tobin. This stream distribution. Some of the people on the panel, Sam, is it Sosa of
Yes.
Triton Digital?
Yes.
And I'm not going to try to say Mike's last name. It is a long Greek name.
Yes,
from Dolby.
From Dolby.
Yeah, we'll just say Dolby. That's a lot easier. Mike and Dolby. Listen, going on forward down this audio for mobile television. Okay, well, here we are back in the TV world, but we're talking about audio for TV.
Right. Basically, what happened, and I'll give a real layman's view of it. People want to be able to watch TV on their mobile devices. Now, the telephone companies said, "Hey, we can't handle that much that, and we don't want to handle that." Mm-hmm. But we have to integrate it. So what mobile television's going to do, at least the way I understand it, and anyone can chime in if I'm wrong, they're going to take the mobile television signal when you go to it, and it's going to take it off the terrestrial cellular network, and it's going to allow you to listen off your terrestrial transmission network of your mobile signal. And that's why people are setting up mobile television for considerations for their transmitters and so forth.
Gotcha.
Are you talking about the ATSC MH, the mobile handheld?
Correct.
Mm.
I give a really simplistic view of that, but I'm sure you can give a better description, Chris.
Chris, tell us what you know about that. This dash MH for mobile television.
Okay, as we all know, ATSC is the digital television standard you're currently watching over the air from any TV that you're taking a signal off the air, that is. That's 1080i or 720p, the broadcasters are doing. Otherwise, I think also in part SMPTE 257M or something like that. Another part of the standard is the ability at a lower bit rate to allow for a mobile environment reception, ATSC M-H. In Europe, it's known as DVB-T, and there's a few DVB-H, another digital standard. So there's two different standards that are available worldwide. But here in the States and North America, Canada, United States, ATSC M-H, and you can, depending on the device, the receiving device, pick up the standard DTV, digital signal that you get now, and then additional channels. So that's what I was getting at with the little video I was showing earlier. That was I did a experimental ATSC broadcast in Canada this weekend. We actually did 800 watts, actually 4,500 kilowatts was the ERP, and we broadcasted a golf game. So that's and here in New York City there are five broadcasters producing a ATSC signal, MH signal. Right now they're just copying their primary programming on it, and you can receive it on your iPhone if you have a certain dongle. I can show you that if I can do this right.
Yeah.
Let me get this.
So with this mobile television, are we going to have even more ways to ignore each other on the train, on the street? Oh, that's the antenna,
absolutely.
And the dongle.
Personal world.
The dongle is this piece here. This antenna picks up the UHF signal, so it doesn't rely on the cellular network of the telephone. You can actually be in airplane mode and still function with this device. It also works with an iPad as well, so you can enjoy it on an iPad.
So no mobile data here. This is another use for broadcast.
That's correct. This comes off the broadcast signal. So I could put on, I'll do this in a moment. It takes a few seconds for it to find something. I'll search for the news signals. I was in Canada, so it has all the Canadian CBC channels on here right now. I can change it. But I'll put up Fox in a moment, and you'll see that this is coming off Fox's signal, but it's a mobile MH, mobile handheld signal.
Any idea what that dongle
cool.
costs?
A dongle, if you like, you can purchase through us. We're the dealer in the United States.
Okay.
This one, I believe, is $150 at the moment. There are several others that are coming to market.
And prices will probably come down once it's out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So there are also DT receivers, handheld portables that we were playing with up in Canada that does both the MH and the off-the-air digital. So it's sort of the size of I guess the size of an iPhone, but thicker.
Yeah, Chris, if you've been to any of the trade shows in Asia, like Broadcast Asia, they've had these portable DTV receivers for some years now. And in fact, they've been
Yes.
You know, on big screens. They've been showing videos of lots of Asian people riding on subways, ignoring each other, watching their little mobile TV set.
Yes, that's the DVB T. I believe that's what they call it now. They may be calling it now DVB H. Yes, that's exactly what's been going on for the last several years. Because of our marketplace and business models that we employ here in the States, these types of things come very slowly because of the small number of people who make decisions as to where programming should be and who should get the money for it.
Yeah.
But I think once people start to realize the potential, and I think the competition, as Dave pointed out, competition from other technologies is going to force broadcasters to make some changes. Because if you're going to rely on the cable networks to distribute your programming for the near future, that's pretty much, doomsday is coming soon. Because at some point, those cable carriers are going to say, why do I have to do this? And if I am, I'm going to charge you for it.
Well, the point of the session at AES is to talk
field.
about audio for this mobile television. And, hey, there's
Correct.
considerations there. And I'll bet you that we're going to end up with automatic devices, with smart audio processors that understand how to take this 5.1 signal, make sure nothing's going to be out of phase or disappear when it goes down to a different, to what's going to come out as some earbuds. And this will happen automatically or get checked automatically. And raise a flag if need be, or just go ahead and fix it. I'm sorry, David, you were about to say something.
No, you're absolutely right, and I'm expecting many people to talk about that. You have a great panel there. You have David Lair from the NAB, Bob Murch from Fox, Gear Skoden from DTS, Jim Sturzinski from NBC, and Dave Wilson from the Consumer Electronics Association.
Oh, yeah.
All on that panel. And I'm sure that we're going to see other people in the audience also participate in the discussion. I think it's opening up a really good discussion on what are the audio needs for this new medium. Because let's face it, this is going to be a whole medium that's designed around headphones. It's not going to be designed around a speaker at all.
Yeah, you're right.
That's true.
You're right.
That's true.
Hey, I want to pause for a second and remind everyone you are watching or listening to This Week in Radio Tech. It is a podcast on the GFQ network. We're doing episode number 138 here. I've got with me, of course, me, Kirk Harnack. I work for the folks at Telos. Also with us are Chris Tarr from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Chris Tobin from New York City. And our guest is David Bialik, works for CBS, and he's here on behalf of the broadcast sessions track at the AES convention coming up at the end of October in San Francisco. Now, I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, and that is another convention that's going on just right after AES. It's called Win Connections. Win Connections is going on October 29th through November 1st at the Bellagio Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now, there's registration cost, but you can save $100 off that by using a code when you register at winconnections.com. You'll save $100 by using the code TECH100, capital T, ECH 100, Tech 100 when you register. Who's going to be there? Well, your buddy Paul Thurrott is going to be there. He's the guy that runs Win Supersite, Supersite for Windows, and also has written a bunch of books, secrets about different Windows operating systems like Windows 7, Windows Mobile, and also coming out Windows 8. So Paul Thurrott will be there. Mary Jo Foley, you've probably seen her on some podcasts along with Paul and many other superstars in the Windows arena. Also, the Connections Conference is what it's doing here is bringing IT pros and developers together with industry experts and your peers to answer questions and strategize and build relationships that'll keep you and your company competitive in the day's market. If you're a company of any size at all, you've probably got a lot of Windows infrastructure going on there. You can attend sessions that are relevant for today and then go back to your office with practical tips and tricks that's going to help you improve productivity and drive down your costs, plus make your life as an IT guy that much easier. You'll gain insights on the Microsoft technology roadmap. You're going to learn to automate tasks with PowerShell. If you've been curious about PowerShell, you can learn all about it. Secure Active Directory from threats. You can create a private cloud with System Center 2012. That's kind of new technology. Manage the desktop experience with group policy. Troubleshoot network configurations. You can even optimize Hyper-V. They're going to have sessions about that. and more. There's always more, right? You're going to learn also what's new and upgraded features to make a compelling case for upgrading to Windows Server 2012, now that that's available. Don't miss discussions on Windows 8 and a roadmap of new Microsoft technologies. Here's the website again. It's winconnections.com. There's an S on that. WinConnections, more than one. WinConnections.com. Again, the code you want to use to register is TECH100. And you will get to hang around at the Bellagio Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas with thousands of other people. What's that?
Get your winders fixed.
Get your winders fixed. We could have done the whole ad with one sentence.
Get your winders fixed.
You got it. That's right. All right. Thanks to Win Connections for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right. Continuing on the schedule.
Hey, Kirk.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of fixing, I want to bring up one of the sessions that's one of my pet projects this year that you're chairing, and that's called Maintenance, Repair, and Troubleshooting. We're making that session open to anybody that has a badge, whether it's exhibits only or you have a badge for all the sessions. Anyone can come to this, and you've got a bunch of experts telling people how to troubleshoot, maintenance, and repair various pieces of equipment, and that's something a trade show hasn't done in many years.
You mean a homeless guy off the street can just walk right in and learn how to troubleshoot stuff?
He must have some badge, but that's about it. Badges, we need badges.
Yeah, I don't need no stinking badges.
You could probably have a badge from the homeless convention.
This is a 9-volt battery. Lick it to see if it's working. Troubleshooting tip number 1.
Chris, I should have had you on the panel.
And
you should have. I would have been a big help.
Two great experts there, Bill Sachs, Kim Sachs. You got Mike Pappas, and I know you got a whole bunch of other people. And why don't you tell us a little about it, since you never wrote the abstract yet?
Well, I'm getting to it. Really, I was under this mistaken impression that the abstract was already written, and then you reminded me I had to write it. I'm so sorry I haven't gotten it to you yet. Troubleshooting, repair, and maintenance. We've had Bill and Kim Sachs on this podcast before. They are a hoot, and these guys, guy and gal, husband, wife, Bill and Kim Sachs get troubleshooting down to the component level. Because their specialty is working on older Orban Optimods. So, back when they were not surface mount devices, when, they were normal kind of, through-hole devices. And Bill and Kim Sachs will talk about troubleshooting at the component level. Now, Mike Pappas, who is also on our panel, is going to talk about troubleshooting on a bit larger scale, on the systems level. Mike's a friend of mine. I've known this guy for years. He's a terrific engineer he's from Colorado, isn't he? That's where I met him anyway. And so Mike will be there, Mike Pappas. Also, we're expecting that Dan Mansur is going to be on the panel too. He's a San Francisco guy, and he is an engineer at KQED FM in San Francisco, big public radio station. So he'll talk about troubleshooting under the heat of battle, like when the show is going on and there's something wrong. We're also, of course, going to touch on maintenance, so you don't have to do this troubleshooting under the heat of pressure or pressure of heat or whatever. And also, what are some repair techniques that you'll need to know to affect the repairs that you just troubleshot. So thanks for mentioning my panel. That's going to be on Saturday at 12:30.
October 27th, 12:45, the lunch break. So you're not going to have any competition, so people can just come in and even grab a sandwich and at the stand, and then come in and listen, because it's going to be really great. And then that following on Sunday at lunchtime, I have Jonathan Abrams from Nutmeg Post putting together a session on software troubleshooting, because we've all had problems, whether it be Mac or PC, and we've had to troubleshoot it. And we got experts coming in from all over, including from Adobe and Avid and a couple other companies. So it's going to be, I think this is the year for troubleshooting.
Well, yeah, things are complicated. We got to know how to fix them.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I was going around to a whole bunch of different people at the convention last year, and I said, what are we missing? And they said, well, we're learning all about how to use this equipment and what to get and everything, but we're not learning how to maintain it. And I said, gee, that's a valid point. So let's do this. So
all right. Well, we got other sessions coming up. Here's one I want to talk about, and that's broadcast audio networking techniques.
Yes.
Yeah.
My very good friend, Dan Braverman over at Radio Systems was kind enough to put this together, and we're going to be talking about the audio over IP standard for broadcast. We're going to be talking about all the different things out there, whether it be Livewire, Ravenna, the Logitech system, the Wheatstone system, and it's going to be a good session on. This is a session for the 21st century because no longer are you taking a huge bundle of wire and bringing it to a router now, because everything's computerized. You're running your audio over IP, and you're networking everything now.
One of the things that I like about this session is that you've got a really sharp scientist level engineer in this thing. Of course, and I'm not speaking of Dan Braverman. Dan's a good friend of mine too. But it's Greg Shea from Telos. Greg is, I mean, I don't know if Greg's got a PhD or not, but he oughta. I mean, this guy is a scientist level R&D guy, and he will really give you the skinny on what's inside the packets and what all the important considerations are for running networked audio around a facility. So I'm so glad that Greg is participating in this. Also, Tag Borland, genius from Logitech, is going to be there as well. So the when is that session, David? Do you have an idea?
That session is at 2:15 p.m. on Friday, October 26th, the first day of the show.
Gotcha.
And it's going to be great. I have to tell you, it was really funny. I've known Dan Braverman now since he was one of the first vendors I ever met when I started in broadcasting. And we've stayed close ever since, and I bought his products and so forth. And I called him up and I said, Dan, I want you to do this. And Dan did his usual 2 minutes of hemming and hawing, and he goes, I can't say no, can I? And I said, no, you can't. And you have to admit, it's really tough. It's a real interesting situation when you have Dan Braverman saying, I can't say no.
By the way, if you just tuned in, we're talking about the AES convention in San Francisco, California. It's coming up October. What are the dates?
The 26th through the 29th.
Okay,
Friday
26th,
the
27th,
26th
29th.
Monday the 29th.
All right.
In San Francisco at the Moscone Center.
Yeah. All righty. That is a big place to go to. And as you said, there's at least one session that is available to anyone with any kind of badge, even if you have an exhibits-only badge.
Two sessions so far that I've told you about. The two troubleshooting sessions are open to everybody.
Okay.
I gave you a link that you can put up on your site for people to get a VIP badge, which would be an exhibits-only badge.
Yep.
And I'm sure you can post that.
We will actually. We're gonna. I meant to mention this if I didn't to Andrew. We will get that up here pretty shortly. Let's see.
Now you want to hear about something really cool?
Yeah.
The first part of this isn't part of the broadcast sessions, but I did plan it because, I did 16 sessions. I said, I haven't done enough. So I organized a audio production that's going to happen on Saturday night where Sue Zizza and David Shin are going to be putting together an audio program starring Phil Proctor of the Firesign Theater. And they're going to be... it's going to be about Edgar Allan Poe. Okay. And then, because obviously we're doing it Halloween weekend, and then Sunday morning, they're going to do a session that is a broadcast session about how they made all the sound effects and everything.
Huh.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. And so they're going to produce that you said during the session?
No, they're doing the production Saturday night, and then then we're gonna have the discussion Sunday morning.
Tell you what, we're going to have this link that David mentioned in our show notes. Not sure if Andrew's going to be able to get it up on the screen during the show here. Let me tell you what it is. All right, not too hard. Get your pen and paper handy. I'm going to give you this link. It's not overly long, to get a free VIP pass into AES, and that's for the exhibits area. But it's also good for 2 sessions that we know about. Both of the troubleshooting sessions, the one that I'm paneling on Saturday and the software troubleshooting panel on Sunday. Here's the link. It is www if you want to, AES.org. That stands for Audio Engineering Society, AES.org/events/133. That's the number of this convention. And then /VIP. I'll give you the code that you have to enter in just a second, but I'm going to repeat the URL for you. It's AES.org/events/133/VIP. You got all that down? Here's the code. There's a code that you'll enter to get a free pass, and it is, well, I'll say it for you, then I'll give it to you phonetically. It's SFAES, as in San Francisco AES. And if you really want that phonetically, it's... I
believe that's case sensitive, by the way.
Yeah, it's all. Oh, yes. Thank you for pointing that out. All uppercase. All uppercase. Sierra Foxtrot Alpha Echo Sierra. Sierra Foxtrot Alpha Echo Sierra, or San Francisco AES, SFAES, all uppercase. All right. We'll put that in the notes on the website at thisweekinradiotech.com, and that'll be up within a couple of days, so you can register and go for free.
And all right. Another session that is one of my favorites, and many years ago, Marvin Caesar, formerly of Aphex, came up to me and said, wouldn't it be great if we did a session on listener fatigue and retention? And I said, let's do it. And we've done it for the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 conventions. And this year is no different. We're doing it again because it's gotten more popular every year. And Dave Wilson of the Consumer Electronics Association is going to moderate that panel. And we have Stephen Ambrose of ACES Technologies, Todd Baker of DTS, Sean Olive of Harman, who is also the incoming president of AES, Robert Reams of Streaming Appliances and DSP Concepts, and our good old friend Bill Sachs is also on the panel because Bill knows more about listener fatigue than anybody. Between all his work on the Optimod and his in-ear monitoring designs and going all the way back to his phono preamp, the man knows how to make audio exciting. So it's going to be a really great panel. And it's a great subject, and I'm just sorry that there is not a lot of research on the topic, and that's one of the reasons AES said, hey, run with it, because no one, you're not going to go to an NAB convention or SMPTE convention and talk about listener fatigue. They won't do it, because every session at the AES, at least the broadcast and streaming sessions, are discussions of technology and technique. We're not doing sales presentations. When you do a sales presentation in front of us, we ask you to leave, because we're here a scientific community, and we're here to learn and discuss technologies. We're not here to hear you talk about the latest console and why it's green and not blue or something like that.
Hey, hey, can we skip the sound design one and move on? Oh, that was what you were just talking about.
We did that.
Sorry. All right. I'm nervous about the next one that I'm on the panel. In fact, I'm sitting next to Chris Tobin. You know, it's going to be one of these I am not worthy situations.
Well, that's an interesting session, because that session's a combination of 2 sessions. When we realized every year when I start doing the sessions, I start blue skying. I talk to people. I get suggestions. And this year, when I finished everything, I had 35 sessions, and I said, okay, we got a problem because people have to sleep, people have to eat, and this can't be a month-long conference. So I had to knock things down, and we were going to do a session on understanding codecs, and we were going to do a session on working with codecs. Then I said, hey, why don't we be innovative and have a session understanding and working with codecs?
Okay, there you go.
And then I said, okay, I know I can con Kirk into talking on this panel. Yes. And Chris Tobin and I go back many, many years from when we ran the New York SBE, and Chris loves to talk to. And then I said, okay. And as Chris will tell you, Chris likes to always be right. And I said, okay, I need someone that can counterbalance Chris. So I got J.J. Johnson on the panel. The man, one of the men credited with the invention of MP3. He ran Bell Labs. He was the chief scientist at DTS. I said, okay, that's great right there. And then we said, okay, I need someone else on that level. So we got Jeff Reedmiller. And is that sufficient, as you would say at Passover? Maybe. You would say Dayenu, but no. I said, okay, we need a great chair. Originally, we were going to have Barry Mishkin chair, but unfortunately, due to personal reasons, he had to bow out. So I said, okay, I know who's going to chair this and who can really stay on the topic and understand this 100%. Kim Sachs. So right. I got Kim to chair it. That was another 5-minute conversation where she kept saying, I don't know. And Bill just said, she's going to do it. Okay. So Kim's going to do it, and it's going to be a great session. And it's going to be everything you ever wanted to know about codecs, but were afraid to ask. And I'm not just talking about using a Zephyr. I'm talking about going down to the codec level. If you're going to use MPEG or whatever, and what codec is good for what situation and so forth. So I think it's going to be a fun panel, and I personally think that even though it's 90 minutes and it's going to be on Sunday, October 28th, I think it's going to be a big job to end that session.
Yeah, this is Sunday afternoon at 3:30. Yes. And you're right, that is a 90-minute session. That is kind of long, but we're going to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, well, with you and Chris, I'm just wondering if the other guys are going to have any time to talk.
Oh, there'll be plenty of time. Everybody will get their fair share.
And following that session, we have audio processing basics. You got Dick Burden, he started working back with Fairchild. And we're going to have on this panel Tim Carroll, Frank Foti, J.J. Johnson again, because the man knows signal processing, and Bob Orban.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn everything you ever wanted to know about processing, but I'm asking them to do it from a real basics level, because there's so many of these new kids at the AES, and I call anyone under 35 a kid now.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, since it was my birthday yesterday, I can do that now.
Yeah.
And I said, I want these kids to understand what compression is, what is a gate, what is expansion, why do they have to sonically listen and not just turn a knob and say, oh, on paper this should work. No, you got to work with your ears.
And actually, if I could interject something, and I'm going to, that is such a huge topic that I'm not sure if it's the elephant in the room or the people don't want to give away their own proprietary secrets. But I certainly cover this at all the SBE meetings and other events that I do where we're talking about processing. When people say, well, I compressed this with the compressor that's in Cool Edit Pro or Adobe Audition, and yet it sounds louder, but it doesn't really sound as good as what you're doing with that box over there. I said, well, that's because you can do processing according to pure math, or you can have more complex algorithms that are based on literally tens of thousands of hours of listening to difficult material over and over and over again, and seeing how you can change the processing parameters to actually make it sound louder, clearer, and better, and not destroyed. So let's hope that the participants, especially Frank Foti, Bob Orban, and Tim Carroll, can get into that, because each of these guys has spent tens of thousands of hours listening to audio and figuring out ways to make it better. And that's not just, okay, if it goes, it's not just a 4-to-1 slope or a 3-to-1 slope or a 250 microsecond release time. There's a lot to it.
Well, think about it even in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
The panel that we have is responsible for how you listen to any electronic media for the last 10 years. These people are responsible for it. Isn't that amazing?
That is. Of course, there are some users who don't always use the products right. I've certainly seen that happen.
As Frank and Bob always say, they make the gun, but they don't tell you how to shoot.
That is right. That's what they say. That's right. So this session is Sunday afternoon at what, about 5 p.m.?
5 p.m. directly following you, so you have no break.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to fit these sessions in.
I see you did.
And I want to mention another free session that's going to be really cool. The keynote address of the convention is going to be by Steve Lillywhite, the award-winning producer. So anyone with any type of badge can come in, listen to his keynote address, and his topic is listen with your ears, not with your eyes.
Yeah, okay.
And after that, right before that is the AES awards session, awards ceremony, which is a few minutes before that. And this year I'm lucky enough to be being awarded a fellow of the AES. So I'm very proud of that.
Congratulations. Good.
But we have other sessions here. I'm just going to read off some topics right now. We have the streaming experience that, you're listening to, the listener is listening to the stream. How do you want him to experience it? How could you make this an enjoyable experience? Because no longer are you just sitting on a Nokia phone and listening. There's many different ways to enjoy and experience the streams now, whether it's audio or video.
Yeah.
And let's see, for television people, we have the lip sync issue. That's a big issue in television. I'm sorry here. We're doing audio encoding for streaming. There's different ways to encode your audio for streaming, and we're going to discuss them. Fred Willard from Univision is chairing that session, and it's going to be phenomenal. And working with HTML5. You heard last year the big fight with Adobe and Apple about, hey, I don't want Flash around anymore. And we want to go HTML5. So they did, and some people had success, some people didn't. Valerie Tyler is putting together a really good session on working with HTML5 and how to work with it with audio. And this is the second year we're having that session. And when I say it's the second year, it's not like we're repeating a session or anything. I look at it as continuing the conversation. So if you've come to an AES before, you're not going to get the same information as the past, but you're continuing the conversation. But we also leave it in such a way that you can come in and listen right away and join into the conversation. So you don't have to be there before, but it helps always. But I encourage you to, if you've never been to an AES, this is an experience all on its own, because it's the only convention focused on professional and broadcast audio for 4 days. And like I said before, you're not sitting in on sales presentations. You're sitting. You're there to learn, and I challenge anybody to go to an AES and not learn something.
We're going to tell. In fact, David, I want to pause you right there. We're going to be back, and I'm going to ask Chris Tarr and Chris Tobin to look over. There's a lot more sessions than what we just talked about here, and look over and see what looks particularly interesting to you. But I want to tell you, this part of the show has been brought to you by my friends and my employer, Omnia Audio. And it was just a few weeks ago that Omnia shipped the 8,000th Omnia One audio processor. Now, the Omnia One processor is terrifically popular, obviously, shipping 8,000 of them. And one reason is because it comes in several different flavors. And you can change the flavor of the processor just by changing the software that's in it. You can upload new software yourself. And in fact, it has two banks of software, so you can flip it between two different things. Let's say you're a corporate radio engineer and you take care of both AM and FM transmitter sites, and you need a backup audio processor. Maybe you need a backup in each market that you take care of. Or maybe you're a contract engineer and you want to carry a processor with you that you could throw on the air somewhere if you have to repair or remove their station's existing processor. Well, the Omnia One should be in the top of your consideration list. It's got two banks of software in it. You can boot it up in either bank. AM, FM. There's a multicast software which is designed specifically to process audio that's going to be encoded for streaming, especially at low bit rates. It does a really good job of encoding at low bit rates to minimize the artifacts that low bit rate codecs can produce. There's also a version called Studio Pro, which is perfect for just generalized multi-band processing around the studio without limiting, just with automatic gain control on a couple of different levels. If you want to check it out, go to the Omnia Audio website. It is Omnia Audio. That's OMNIA, OmniaAudio.com. And check out the Omnia One audio processor. By the way, the Omnia One has analog inputs, AES input, if you want to feed it with AES digital audio, and it also has a live wire connection. So if you're one of these radio stations that's got live wire IP audio in your station, you can just plug this your live wire right into it. Just plug it between the Omnia One and your live wire Ethernet switch, and you've got audio coming into it and going back out. The Omnia One also, for outputs, it has analog, AES, live wire, and there's a composite output. There's actually two of them to feed FM transmitters with a composite feed. That is a baseband, or also called a multiplex feed. So it's got all the I/O you could want on it. Plus, it also has a GPIO connector, so you could change presets, go from mono to stereo, for example, with a contact closure if you need to do that kind of thing. So check it out, if you would, on the website at omniaaudio.com. And hey, join the crowd. My goodness, this thing is powerful and it's popular and the price is really right. Check with your favorite Omnia dealer. You'll find those also on the website at omniaaudio.com. You are watching or listening to the 138th edition of This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, along with Chris Tobin from New York City. Also, Chris Tarr from Mukwonago, Wisconsin. That's up near Milwaukee. And our guest is David Bialik. And hey, Chris and Chris, I sent you a link for a schedule of all the stuff going on at AES. If you go to the AES website at aes.org, you can click your way around and find the calendar of events. And I know this. On the one hand, I know this whole show, this whole episode has sounded like a commercial for AES, and they're not paying us anything. That's not the point here. What I think is absolutely critical for the audio industry, and especially for radio guys, is to go and be on the cutting edge, be on the leading edge of technology and where audio is going, where technology is going, where streaming is going, so that you can provide the best service to your employer, or if you're in business for yourself, make you look the best that you can, and that so that we can continue and find new ways to get really good audio out to the consumers who consume this product. You can sure kill a business by having really lousy audio. And that's just something we've got to avoid. And sometimes I feel like we don't have enough expertise in the business. Then I go to AES and see, well, there really are young people, as David Bialik just said, people under 35 involved in the audio business and all different aspects of it. So, hey, Chris Tarr, are you hanging with us?
I am here.
Did you look at the calendar?
I did.
What looks good to you?
I'll cheat and say that the session on fatigue would be one that I'd be very interested in. A lot of the processing work that I do is the loud version, the loud and clean setting. We have had some competitors in the market that have cranked everything to 11, and although they're a little bit louder, you just get tired of listening to them after about 10 minutes. And I quite often would have that discussion with program directors saying, hey, I could make it really loud, but you're going to get tired of it in about 15 minutes. And have been pretty successful in convincing them of that. But I think that, I tried to interject earlier, and I think, it was interesting what you said about, using your ears versus using an algorithm. I was actually working on that today, where I sat down and I coincidentally had an Axia console, turning on some microphone processing, and I didn't. One of the adjustments I made was to the low end, and instead of looking at frequencies and curves, I went into the microphone, cranked the gain all the way up, and then tuned it for the frequency that sounded really good to me, and then adjusted the gain. And same thing with with the compression and things like that. I didn't look at the ratios. I listened, and in fact, kind of turned my head away from the meters as I adjusted the knobs to get it to where I sound right. And I know a couple of PDs who I've tried to teach processing adjustment for, and they'd go, hey, I changed it from 7 to 6, and it says that the normal range is 7 to 9, and is that wrong? And I'd say, does it sound good? Then it's right. So, that's the kind of thing, that's pretty much right up my alley.
I did a experiment this past few weeks. During the summer, I redid the audio for my synagogue, and I took out a bunch of old amplifiers that they had in there, which basically looked like they belonged in a school intercom system. And I put in some high-quality but lower wattage amplifiers and set up the EQ and everything, and had the rabbi and the cantor do some mic checks and everything. And they said, wow, we sound a lot clearer. And I said, yeah. And I said, watch what's going to happen, because in the past during the high holidays, there's this huge crowd that's walking all between, and you can't hear anything over the crowd noise. Once it was clearer, though not louder, the room was quiet, and they did not have everybody talking to their friends because the room was clear. So I owe that to less listener fatigue, because the clarity won out.
Oh, you are so right. Nail on the head. And I applaud what you said there. I got to point out, if I spend a lot of time in airports, travel a lot around the world, and if, for example, you go to, and I'll point out, you go to Midway Airport in Chicago, and it is so incredibly noisy at Midway. There's just stuff blaring at you from every which way, and there's so many hard surfaces in if this is the new terminal, okay, this is a whole new design, and yet everything is just so loud and boisterous, and you can hardly hear the announcements over.
You need headphones to walk through the halls.
Yeah. Now, a few years ago, I landed at an airport in Australia. I'm pretty sure it was. I don't think it was Sydney. I'm pretty sure it was either Melbourne or Adelaide, but I think it was Melbourne. And I landed there, and I noticed this airport is quiet, and yet it's full of people. There's people everywhere, and yet it's enjoyable and quiet. My head doesn't feel compressed. And
Same thing at the Orlando airport.
And then an announcement came over the speakers, and the announcement wasn't blaring. It wasn't incredibly loud. It sounded full range, and you could understand every word that was being said. And it was just such a marvelous design. And it just honked me off so bad that so many airports, I'm sure all over the world, but just so many in the U.S. are just like that. Actually, the Nashville airport is not too bad. They got a lot of sound baffling in there to absorb sound. But yeah, I just want to back up what you said, that with proper design, and this goes into a lot of things, the facility design and the speaker design and placement, and architects working with the sound people. And, in the U.S., do they really talk to each other? I'm not so sure. To make the place sound better. So, David, thanks for bringing that up. Hey, real quick, I want to check in with Chris Tobin. You see anything on the calendar that makes your socks roll up and down?
Absolutely.
I'm going to be checking out the acoustic and audio iPhone apps. There's also something on power distribution at live events, which always comes in handy when you're doing new technology. They're all microprocessor based these days, and voltage stability is key. There's also Steve Lampin is doing one of his pieces, so I'm going to definitely sit in on his. He always has something good. He's from Belden. You can be very, very well entertained by Steve and his anecdotes. And then there was one other thing I came across. Oh, the interoperability with IP audio, AVB, and a few other things that are coming out. So that and wireless microphone systems and the latest in RF and how to coordinate a live event, what's going on there. So those are a few of the things I'll be checking out.
All right. And if anybody has any suggestions for future AES shows, you can always email me at broadcast@aes.org, and I will always be open to ideas because I can't design these sessions without input from everybody else.
All right, microbrews in the back of at least 2 halls would it be helpful?
Audio engineering for microbreweries.
Chris, you're buying, huh?
No. Just a suggestion. We'll work out the details later.
All right, guys, we got to go, man. I've appreciated everybody's participation, and David, look, we gave you an hour, so I hope that's enough for you. Does it work?
It works.
All right, good deal. Check it out on the web. You can go to aes.org and click on the 133rd convention in San Francisco. They have other events too. AES does other meetings and committees that meet and people working on standards and so forth. But you want the 133rd AES in San Francisco. All right, David Bialik from New York. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And also Chris Tobin, the best dressed engineer in radio from Manhattan. Now, are you machine gun free in your neighborhood now?
No, it's going on for another week. So now they're quiet. It's 9:30. They'll start up again around 8 a.m. And there's the ATSC MH video. It's Channel 5 Fox affiliate here in New York City. That's coming off the air on a UHF signal. There you go, on an iPhone. Oops, I'll go that way.
And that is not using your data plan.
It's the 416 by 240, 16 by 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's on iPhone, that's not true mobile television.
Really? Why would you say that?
Because the iPhone is not going off terrestrial. It's going off the internet.
No, it's terrestrial.
No. See, that's the best part of this little demonstration. See this little white rectangular box with a little wire loop?
Okay.
There you go. See, if I pull it out, I won't do it at the moment, but if I was to pull it out, you'd lose the signal. So the phone is in airplane mode right now, so I'm demonstrating to you an off-the-air signal, something that many folks in the audience under 35 would not be familiar with over-the-air signals anymore. It's, right. It's pretty much for those of us who've been around a long time.
The funny thing is, Chris and I became friends when we were both less than 35.
Yes, Chris, to explain terrestrial broadcasting to folks under 35, you say, well, it's like Wi-Fi, but it's super-duper power and it's one way.
And they go, why would I want to do that?
That's right. Also with us has been Chris Tarr from Muckwonago, Wisconsin, home of the beer cheese. Thanks for being with us, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next time we'll let you talk more, okay?
No problem.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, and thanks to our sponsors, WinConnections.com and OmniaAudio.com. Thanks to Andrew Zarian and the GFQ Network for engineering the show. We're going to have another great show for you next week. Be sure you check the website, thisweekinradiotech.com. We'll have that AES link up there for you, and you can watch the show and subscribe to the show, either in audio or video, from that site or from the GFQNetwork.com site, either one. All right? We'll see you next time on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye, everybody.
That's all the bandwidth we can pilfer this week. Another tort has propagated, and all the transmitters and audio equipment live happily ever after, thanks to the handsome engineer and his kind, benevolent care. We'll be back next week.
Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
This Week in Radio Tech. Subscribe to iTunes and you'll never miss a show. Search for This Week in Radio Tech in the iTunes Store. Soliciting is strictly encouraged. If you liked today's show, tell a friend. If you didn't like it, we were never here. Kirk Harnack's wardrobe provided by the Salvation Army and the Red Cross Disaster Relief Services. Hair and makeup provided by Penelope Garcia Hernandez Weinberg.
He's unique, wouldn't you say?
I just want to get it over with.
This ends this transmission. Tango, Whiskey, India, Romeo, Tango. Signing off. Okay.